go.
Good afternoon, it's Jim and Becky behind the camera in Beaverton, Oregon, and we are With It Retirees. So a few videos back I promised that I would tell about 3 different hobbies that we have. We started out with mushrooms, which was hobby number 1. If you go to the last 3 videos, you will see mushroom videos, and you'll see mushroom videos again as soon as they have mushrooms again. So I thought I would start out with hobby number 2, which is keeping aquariums. To start with, I think people would be interested in this. This is a occupation Japanese period aquarium ornament. Right after World War II, the Japanese economy was in demise, and they had to find some things that it was okay for them to make. And having a history in pottery, one of them they hit on was aquarium ornaments, and many of them will come marked "Occupy Japan" on them, which I think is pretty cool, or at least Japan, and many times Japan written on the outside. But there's hundreds of them, and they're all about 70 years old. They only made them for a few years, just before my birth. So anyhow, I collect these. I thought they'd be kind of interesting. You'll see a few pop up now and then. Back to my history in fish tanks. I started keeping fish tanks when I was a little kid, which is 60 some years ago. And we started back in the day with metal sided 5-gallon tank I had, and that was a very common tank to have, and that was considered pretty high tech actually. And I've gone a long way, so things have improved immeasurably. The biggest improvements of tanks over the years really is, 1, the ability to glue glass together to make a seamless tank, and 2, they have wonderful LED lights which allow you to have plants in them much easier. So anyhow, that's kind of where we're going. My philosophy of fish tanks, and I should say that's my philosophy. There are many ways to do this, and I don't want to talk about anybody else's way, but my own is to have tanks in the 15 to 20 gallon range. These 2 tanks are 60H ADA rimless tanks from Japan. You don't have to get quite that fancy, but 20 gallons is kind of the sweet spot in tanks. This tank weighs 200 pounds or so full, so it's not ridiculously heavy. You know, if you had a 100-gallon tank sitting there, obviously you'd have 1,000 pounds. So I find they're easy to move around. They are relatively inexpensive at this size, and they're plenty big enough, as you can see, to get lots of little fish in there. So that's the range of tank that I like to use. And the secret to my success, if I have a secret to my success, is the fact that I assume that aquarium plants, like this one here, will look good for a while, and if they don't die, they're going to become evasive. They'll grow out of their dirt or wherever you have them. So everything I have, I put in pots. So to make that work, I have over here what I call a underwater greenhouse. So all of these plants are plants like are in the other aquarium. I have one more aquarium I'll show you at a later date. And I pot them up in potting soil, which has got a lot of nutrition in it. But by doing it in pots, I can do 2 things. 1, if I get tired of the plant or it outgrows over on the other side, I just swap them out. We have a new plant. And then I'll divide that plant, and there you go. The other thing is, if you have sand as a base, it's really stable, and it's really nice to put aquascape, hardscape in, which you'll see more of when I show you the bigger tank. So anyhow, the key to keeping an aquarium, in my opinion, is to get the plants growing before you put the fish in. Fish, if you even decide to have fish, you could have a perfectly good aquarium with nothing but shrimp in it, or a frog. What makes the aquarium work, the reason this water is clear, is because these plants are out producing algae. If you don't have them, the algae is just going to go rampant because you have nutrition in here from fish and whatever. And what grows best is algae underwater. So once you get the plants going, then you can put some fish in and it won't go all to pieces, and you have to take your time. We just put fish in this one a couple of weeks ago, and it's been up for months. So, you know, be very glad. It looks pretty good just with plants. So anyhow, what I like to do is to keep 2 tanks or even 3 of a smaller size, and then, for instance, after a couple of years, you're going to get tired of this tank, but I can break it down, move the fish over there, move the plants that I want over there, repot them, take all the hardscape out, empty it out, completely refill it in a couple hours. But of course I can't put fish in it. So one tank feeds off the other, then you bring the plants back and start again. You can't keep an aquarium going very well over the years. 2 or 3 years is about really it. Although this way may be better. So that's my system, and I'm not going to tell you any more about any of the other accoutrements that go with it, because I think we should hold off for another video. But what I do want to talk about next is where to place your fish tank. First of all, in the house, put it where everybody is. If everybody's here like we are here, there you have it. This is where this is the back of our living room, I guess you would call it. If you put it way down in the corner in the basement down there, and that the only reason you go down there is to look at the fish tank, it's not going to be a good deal because you won't look at it enough. So when you do it, let's make one good enough so that people want to see it when they come in, and they will say, oh wow, look at that. So anyhow, this let's say we've picked a location. In this case, we have a double tank, so we have a nice wide buffet that actually is almost ideal for this situation. First of all, it's stout enough that it can hold a load. The back of this buffet comes off when we store it, so anything you want to put through the back and the way it lines is open. If you notice, come forward, the drawers, this is tools, and you need tools. Trust me, that one of the things you're going to need when you end up with a fish tank is tools. This is aquascaping tools and brush cleaners and things like that. Another thing that you will need. And then of course you're going to end up with spare parts and things like that. So, and then down below, I'm not going to open that one, is more bigger spare parts and hardscaping. You need to save all of your hardscape and stuff like that, and then the next time you aquascape, you'll have some. Down here we have a pair of canister filters, and we'll talk about those again on a separate thing. So that's not really what we're about, but something just like this, or half this big, if you have one tank on it, is exactly what you're looking for. Antique stores have a lot of excuse me, buffets that are good for that too. So anyhow, let's get a couple of tanks, or at least one, and get the place where we're going to put the tanks and set it up, and then we'll try again and go from there next time.
Polyurethane.
Pardon me? Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention that was going to be my tip of the day, and it still is. Thank you for telling me about that. When you get your furniture, whatever the furniture, old, new, it doesn't matter, whatever it is, get yourself a can of, this is water-based. It's not supposed to be exterior, but I use it for that I like it a lot. It's polyurethane coated. So you just put it on, about 4 coats. It takes maybe an hour or 2 to dry in warm weather. I have used it, you test it, but I've used it on everything, and I've never had anything not like to be covered with this stuff. After about 4 coats of it on here, when you spill water all over this like you do, instead of getting all messed up and screwing up your top and making you cry, it'll just wipe up. So that would be our tip for the day, and we'll go further down this path next time.